What's up, YouTube? Brian here, back again with another rod review, and today we're going to talk about kind of a weird rod, a very unique rod, and something that I don't think people talk about very much, which is kind of what I try to hit on this channel. But this is the Shimano Expride 7-foot Light Plus rod. Now, the Light Plus is an interesting stick. It's much more parabolic and soft than the 7-foot Medium. And actually, this rod seems to have more power and feel a little better in my hand than the 610 Medium Light. I did own that rod for a while, and that thing was a straight noodle. This rod has definitely got a little more power and a little more backbone than the Medium Light, but it's a little longer. So let's talk about the action on this rod real quick. So as you expect, this thing has a lot of tip. I mean, this whole front half of this rod bends. So the action on this thing goes way down. So if you notice, like tip, this is all still parabolic. The power on this rod doesn't even kick in till right about that last guide. So from the very first guide all the way to the tip is all bend. So you get a really whippy rod with the Light Plus. Now the lure rating is really light on this thing. It only goes up to 7/16. So what I use this rod for was throwing hair jigs. So I have an older Skeeter bass boat. It doesn't have a super long rod locker. So a lot of people, you know, when they throw the hair, they like to throw like a 7/6, or they like to throw like the 901 or 902 G Loomis, like the NRX or the IMX. So those longer rods, I was a little trigger shy about picking one up because I don't think it'd fit my rod locker very well. So I talked to some Shimano people, some Shimano fanboys, and they said, oh yeah, the Light Plus is a good smaller length hair jig rod. So I picked it up. And I've been using it this year, and I've caught a lot of fish on it. If you go, maybe I'll throw a card up, but in my Wisconsin smallmouth fishing video, I started off throwing hair on this rod, and it works really well. When you get a fish pinned with this rod with a really light wire hook, this thing has such a deep bend. You can really play a fish out for a long time if you want, and you're not going to bend out the hook. You're not going to lose the fish. For throwing really light, finessey tackle, the 7-foot Light Plus is definitely a good option. If you're a trout fisherman, and you're fishing trout streams, this is a great stick that can do smallmouth fishing, but then transition into throwing like spinners on a trout stream. This would also be a really great crappie rod. So if you want to crappie fish, maybe throw it at spinners, small crappie baits, this rod can do it. So this rod is super versatile in that lighter bait, lower spectrum on like finesse stuff. So can this rod drop shot? This could drop shot. If you really were in a pinch and you need to drop shot with this rod, you definitely could. I wouldn't go any weight. I mean, you got to run light drop shot weights with this thing. It doesn't handle heavy weights very well. I mean, it's only rated up to 7/16. So if you're light drop shotting shallower, definitely this rod could do it. You could even throw really light Nico rigs with this thing if you wanted to. You know, anything super light, super finessey, like really light balsa baits, light cranks, like small twitch baits. Like I said, pretty much any trout bait would be great on this rod. So balance wise, really great balance. This is the Daiwa Tatula LT3000. If you notice, the balance point is like right at the lock nut. I've talked about the ergonomics on the Shimano Expride handle in my 7-foot medium spinning rod review. I don't love the grip and the handle on the X-Prize, but I don't hate it. I like to choke up. When I choke up, my fingers are kind of just getting right on that lock nut or just on the edge of that lock nut. So it's okay. I wish this part of the grip was up here and the lock nut was on the bottom. I wish this grip was 180 degrees flipped. I think it would have been a lot better. As far as fit and finish, we all know the X-Pride's fantastic. Weight-wise, this rod is literally super light. I'll throw the actual weight in ounces into the comments. I don't have my scale here. I should have wrote it down. I apologize, but it'll be in the comments. But as far as the action, like I said, it's got a deep parabolic action. As far as castability, if you're throwing light weights, it is only 7 foot. So throwing a lightweight bait like a hair jig or a light balsa, if you're using the wind, you're going to be able to get it out there, but don't expect this thing to be a casting champion with light baits. You do have a big whippy tip, so you're going to be able to get that bait out there, but it's not going to hook a bait as far as you'd think, maybe like if you start using like a 7/6 or even maybe like a 7/7 or even maybe like an 8-foot lightweight rod. So your casting ability will be slightly limited by the 7-foot length, but what you make up there is in its versatility and able to bring it places. So you can throw this in your car, you can throw this in your truck. You know, kayak guys, easy rod to kind of manage. It's only 7 foot. So if you're looking for a super finessey, This rod's sensitive. One thing I noticed with fishing this thing is I was making casts with the hair jig, and I'm slow rolling that hair jig in, just real light. I felt when a smallmouth came up and took it. It was like, thunk, like you. This thing is very sensitive for how light and parabolic this rod is. I had no problem detecting bites, and so when I set the hook on the fish, you kind of just reel into them on this rod. You don't have to do a big hook set. When you feel that bite, you just reel into them and let the reel do the work, and then the parabolic bend of this rod will just lay into that fish and keep them pegged. So you don't have to do big thunderous hook sets with this rod. Just lift and reel. It's a really fun rod to fish. Am I going to use it as my primary hair jig rod next year? I don't know, because this year, at the end of the season, I picked up this bad boy, the Destroyer Felissa. So the Felissa is a full-on 7.6 lightweight, light action rod that's perfect for throwing hair. So I'm actually going to be kind of running this rod against this one. I did throw some hair last fall with this rod, but I didn't get to really fully test it. So I'm going to be kind of auditioning the Felissa to replace this guy, and if I really like the Felissa for throwing hair and those light baits like the Okashira screwhead and things like that, I'll probably be selling this rod. I don't think I'm going to keep it around if the Felissa kind of knocks it out of the rotation. But for the summer, great rod. I put it through a lot of paces. It was really fun to use. So if you're thinking about picking one of these up, just be very aware that it is a really deep parabolic action until about the first guy. That's when your backbone kicks in. Don't pick this up thinking this is going to be like your do-it-all drop shot rod or do-it-all set like a 7-foot medium. You're not throwing wacky Senkos on this thing. You're not throwing bottom contact jigs with this thing. You can throw light Neds that are going to be fine, inline spinners, trout baits, and even like heavier panfish stuff would be great on this rod. So I hope that's a good rundown of the Shimano Expride 7-foot Light Plus. It's an excellent rod, but it is limited. I mean, you got to know what you're getting into with this stick. Balance is really good with the lightweight LT3000 reel. So, you know, even with like a new Vanford or a Stratic CI4, any kind of like lightweight reel, it's going to feel right at home in this rod. These rods are really good and really excellently balanced for using the lightweight reel, which is, if you're going to have a lightweight rod like an Expride, why don't you throw a lightweight reel on it? No brainer, right? Make the whole thing super light. So overall, awesome rod. Was really happy with it all year. Don't have much negatives other than it is 7 foot, so your casting distance might not be as long as you think with this thing, but you are going to be able to get those baits out there. So anyway, if you got any questions, throw them in the comments. Please hit up my Instagram. It's @punchfishing. I throw up a lot more content on there than on the YouTube channel just because it's easier. And until next time, we'll see you later. Thanks for watching.